Have you ever moved into a new home and felt like something was just off? That strange creak in the floorboards, the shadow you catch in the corner of your eye, the feeling of being watched when you're all alone. Most of the time, it's just our imagination running wild, our minds playing tricks on us as we get used to a new space. But sometimes, it's something else. Something much, much darker. Today, we re-diving into 3 true horror stories from people who found out their dream home was actually a living nightmare. These aren't tales of friendly ghosts or playful spirits. These are stories that will make you think twice before signing that lease or closing that deal. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to be terrified. Our first story comes from a young couple. Let's call them Mark and Sarah. They had just bought their first house, a charming 2-story fixer-upper in a quiet suburban neighborhood. It was a dream come true, the perfect place to start their family. The first few weeks were a blur of unpacking boxes, painting walls, and planning renovations. Everything was idyllic then. The strange occurrences began. It started subtly. They would hear faint whispers coming from the empty upstairs bedrooms. At first they blamed it on the old pipes or the wind whistling through the eaves. But the whispers grew louder, more distinct. They sounded like a child, softly crying. Mark, being the more skeptical one, tried to find a logical explanation for everything. He checked the vents, the insulation, even had an old radio expert come by to check for stray signals. Nothing. One evening while Sarah was home alone, she heard the crying coming from the nursery they had just finished painting. Her heart pounded in her chest as she slowly walked up the stairs. The door was slightly ajar. Peeking inside, she saw the rocking chair they had bought for their future baby, rocking back and forth on its own. The crying was coming from right there in the room. She slammed the door and ran outside, calling Mark in a panic. When he got home, the house was silent, the rocking chair still. He tried to reassure her, suggesting it was a draft, but Sarah knew what she had seen and heard. The activity escalated. Objects would move on their own. The baby monitor they set up, just to see if it would capture anything, would crackle to life with the sound of a little girl humming a lullaby. They started digging into the history of the house. What they found chilled them to the bone. 50 years prior, a family lived there with a young daughter named Emily. Emily had tragically passed away in the house from a sudden illness, in what was now their nursery. The previous owners never disclosed it. The couple realized they weren't alone. The whispers, the crying, the rocking chair. It was Emily. She wasn't malicious, just a lonely little girl, lost and attached to her home. But living with a constant, heartbreaking reminder of a past tragedy was too much to bear. They couldn't find peace. After just 6 months, Mark and Sarah sold the house, making sure to fully disclose its history to the new buyers. They never found out if Emily's spirit ever found its way to the other side. Our second story is even more unsettling. It comes from a Reddit user who shared his experience after moving into a modern apartment building. You'd think newer buildings would be safe from hauntings, right? Think again. Let's call our narrator Alex. Alex was a college student who moved into a new, sleek apartment complex near his campus. It was perfect. Great amenities, good location, and brand new construction, or so he thought. From the first night he felt an overwhelming sense of dread in his apartment, specifically centered around his bedroom closet. It was a deep, walk-in closet, and he always felt like someone was standing inside, just watching him. He started keeping the door firmly shut at all times. One night he was woken up by a scratching sound. It was coming from inside the closet. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was slow, deliberate. He lay frozen in his bed, listening. The scratching continued for what felt like an hour before finally stopping. The next morning he cautiously opened the closet door. Nothing was out of place. He convinced himself it was a mouse or some other pest in the walls. But the scratching came back the next night, and the night after that. It was always the same rhythmic, unnerving sound. He started sleeping on the couch, too afraid to be in his own bedroom. Then came the smell. A faint, putrid odor started seeping from the closet. He complained to the building management, who sent a maintenance worker to investigate. They couldn't find anything. No pests, no mold, no source for the smell. But Alex knew something was wrong. He started having nightmares about the closet. In his dreams, he would see a gaunt, shadowy figure with long, sharp fingernails, scratching at the inside of the door, trying to get out. One day he came home from class and found the closet door wide open, a detail he was certain he hadn't left that way. The scratching marks he had only seen in his dreams were now physically etched into the wood on the inside of the door. Deep, jagged gouges that could only have been made by something desperate to escape. That was the final straw. Alex broke his lease that same week, paying a hefty penalty just to get out. Before he left, he did some research and discovered a horrifying truth the developers had hidden. The new apartment complex was built on the grounds of an old, notoriously cruel asylum that had been torn down years before. He never found out what was in that closet, and frankly, he never wanted to know. Our final story for tonight is perhaps the most disturbing of all, because it involves not just a feeling or a sound, but a physical discovery that changes everything. A family of four, a mum, a dad, and two young kids, moved into a spacious farmhouse in rural Pennsylvania. It was old, built in the late 1800s, and it came with a lot of land and a large, creepy-looking basement. The kids loved the open space, and the parents were excited to restore the historic home. Almost immediately, the kids started talking about their friend in the basement. They called him the man with the crooked smile. They said he was tall and skinny and would watch them play from the shadows of the basement. The parents dismissed it as an imaginary friend, a common thing for children in a new, spooky house. But the stories got more specific. The kids said the man with the crooked smile would whisper to them, telling them secrets about the house. He told them where old coins were hidden under the floorboards and about a loose brick in the fireplace. To their astonishment, the parents checked, and the kids were right. They found a handful of old silver dollars and the loose brick, exactly where the kids said they would be. This was unsettling. How could they know this? Their imaginary friend was suddenly feeling very real. The mother became increasingly anxious. She started hearing footsteps in the dead of night, coming from the main floor when everyone was upstairs asleep. Doors would be found open in the morning that were definitely closed the night before. The feeling of being watched was constant. The breaking point came one afternoon when the father decided to organize the cluttered basement. In a dark, forgotten corner, behind a stack of old wooden crates, he found a small hidden door, painted to blend in with the stone wall. It wasn't on the building plans. Prying it open, he found a tiny, cramped, windowless room, and inside that room was a dusty old mattress, a bucket, and a series of tally marks carved into the wall. Hundreds of them. Someone had been living in their walls, living in their basement, watching their family. The man with the crooked smile wasn't a ghost. He was a squatter, a real person who had been secretly cohabiting with them this entire time. They called the police immediately. The man was gone, but his makeshift living space was proof. They had been sharing their home with a complete stranger who hid in the shadows, whispered to their children, and roamed their halls while they slept. They moved out the very next day. Their dream of a peaceful country life shattered into a million pieces. So, the next time you hear a strange noise in your new home, you have to ask yourself, is it just the house settling, or is it something else? A lingering spirit from a past tragedy? A dark echo from a forgotten history? Or, perhaps most terrifyingly, is it someone who never left? Thanks for watching. If these stories gave you chills, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more terrifying true tales. Stay safe out there, and always check your closets.